Hey there guys, today we're looking at Bonkers. He's playing an ETF2L Div 3 official, so let's start this. Haven't seen this latest version of Metalworks, but I don't think the changes are significant enough that it'll really cause that many problems. So you're a little bit slow on this rollout. Could unequalize a bit later, obviously. And then this mid, I don't know, on this mid, from my experience with it, which isn't a whole lot, only a couple seasons, most of the time soldiers want to take height early, and then if they get jumped, they can jump away, because a lot of the packs, their enemy packs, the medium health packs, are really accessible. So if you run into a situation where you do get counter jumped after you've done all that damage with your height, then you can jump away to a health pack pretty easily, because they're pretty open and they're almost always taken by soldiers, I find. But yeah, you never really want to be getting jumped on a mid, so just kind of take it to them next time. And like I said, taking height early usually would be a bad idea because you probably get counter jumped, but in most situations on this mid, there's two medium packs that are generally available for soldiers. Right there. I don't really know much to say about that, just kind of like your mech needed to be a bit further back. You likely would have killed that demo had he been playing a little bit better, so some good weapon choice there, but didn't really matter. At the end of the thing, everyone was really buffed. So at this point, you're pretty fucked. Not gonna be able to hold last. Except they just dropped both scouts, so you're fine now. Actually, maybe. And what you're looking to do right here is maybe even you, because you took this big buff, is probably try to push into them and see if you can force their med, or not force their med, but kill their med or take another player so you have enough time to kind of get Uber. Alternatively, yeah, the heavy is a pretty good idea here. But at about 50%, you probably want to push up, because at 60%, they're going to have Uber, and you want to spam them a little bit before they kind of get in, or at least figure out where they're coming from. And your team as a whole should kind of be embracing that idea. But your demo gets a nice sticky trap, and your heavy's taking a lot of damage, so you're probably going to get it. Unfortunately, your medic Ubers here, and you didn't really have to, so you're going to lose out on probably getting mid off of this, but it's pretty easy for you to take second. Nice that you recognize that there's a player here. And in this situation, you should probably let your medic meet the rest of your team. Okay, everyone's a little bit slow. Never mind then. I was going to suggest going lower, assuming that your team was more closer to point, but what you did was fine there. Just to spread the heals around. That's the only reason I suggested you going lower, to kind of manage an area while everyone else kind of got buffed up, in the kind of forward thinking of that you're going to get mid pretty easily. So you guys are probably going to have like 30% on them, since you Ubered as their mech died. So if you really want to make use of that, I find that pushing into them in lobby, especially when they're putting up this pressure like this, is pretty bad. For the most part, you're going to want to push flank if you have a lot of time, just because it's easier than pushing underneath, because obviously they could drop down, or have a lot of pressure on flank, so if you end up pushing underneath, a lot of stuff can kind of get behind you and slow you down. But in this situation, it's probably better to go underneath through valley into mid, and kind of Uber behind them if they happen to still be in house or lobby, I guess, whatever you want to call it. And that way you have a lot of room for situations where they're pretty far back, and you kind of want to keep your Uber, because you won't be able to use it to kill the medic. And obviously you can cut them off a bit if they're still in lobby and use your Uber there to get the medic. And that's what you're really looking to do with this Uber advantage, is make sure you get the medic, or in a situation where you can't get the medic, you don't use the Uber. So you're not moving quick enough, and they're probably going to get this by the time you guys get into mid. And especially now that you dropped one, I probably wouldn't even Uber here. So yeah, they're gonna look to defend this. I'm pretty sure they have it right now. And your team's kinda dying. Your medic gets a saw, so you'll have advantage if he lives, but it's not looking that way at the moment. You're probably best maintaining your health here, because I would imagine your medic's gonna die. That may have been him. And you're basically, you were looking to kind of make a play on their medic, or try to fight like a surprise 1v2 where you get both of the kills, because you really need something to slow them down from getting into your last.
The control point is being captured.
So in that kind of mindset, it probably would have been better to do less jumps, or at least arrive at a health pack, so you're ready to kind of fight them at 2. So yeah, they have pretty big advantage now, probably like 40-50%, because your medic died really late, maybe even 70, so they should be pushing pretty soon. You want to conserve your buffs around this point, because I imagine they're going to be pushing them pretty quickly. And you want to make sure, I don't know where your other scout is, but he needs to be taking a buff. Or sorry, like, oh, he's on sniper, so that's a good pick. You can probably afford to push up right now, because they might even suicide in. Okay, so they're coming in with this bad Uber and down numbers. You probably wanted to jump that roamer there, do a bit of damage with your shotgun if he jumped, or just kind of splash him with your rockets as you're jumping at him, just because backing up isn't really doing a whole lot, and you're sitting on his health and it doesn't really do anything. And the likelihood of them really reacting to you is pretty small, because they're trying to kill the heavy right now. And if they're putting ammo onto you like that, it's pretty great for your team, because you can still just jump away again. You just jump a bunch of times. You have really good health right now, so that's what you should have looked to do instead of back up and just kind of sit around. You do some good damage on the point and block it, so that's really good. And these guys have a pretty, like I said, their Uber was pretty bad and they dropped one at the beginning of it, so make sure you pick up the bottle here. You don't ever really want, as a pocket, to be taking that many heals. Like, only in situations where it's stalemated and you need to kind of go in and break things up is when you really want to be concerned about taking a lot of heals. Every other situation, because you're the most accessible to the medic, from his perspective, it makes more sense to heal other people, because they're going to be further away and the opportunity to heal them might not arise again. So if you present yourself as weaker than you need to be by not picking up packs or needlessly rocket jumping, it creates problems, like a conflict for the medic. And I don't think you guys need to stack, because I think they died pretty early into the last, so I think pretty much they got all their spawns. Maybe they didn't get their medic, so maybe it was a good idea. Yeah, it looks like they didn't. And yeah, you really have to worry about this when you're pushing in the mid. That's why I prefer to push through Valley. So when you were up top, I probably wouldn't drop down and then into Valley, and you can't really get screwed over by this soldier here, because your medic's, in cover. He's, in a choke point. It's pretty hard for this guy to get on him. And when you have Uber like this, and especially if you guys block the medic spawn, you're not looking to use on this mid. In general, I'm kind of a believer of maintaining your advantage and just using the threat of an Uber to push people out, and then when it eventually becomes Uber v Uber after you've taken a couple of points, you just kind of sack in, or you do some sort of reset push where you move most of your team with good health into some of their players that are poorly positioned and have low health. Obviously, if you can find the medic, you want to Uber on him, and you can guarantee kill him, you obviously take that. But in this situation, I think you denied his forward, so he obviously isn't going to be here. And anything that's going to happen at mid is going to be someone without a buff trying to make a play. So you just want to eliminate that opportunity as much as possible. Nice shot though. Should be shotgunning this guy, because he's If he's gonna dodge you like that, you shotgun him a couple of times, you have 2 rockets loaded, you can feel comfortable rocket jumping into him to shotgun him some more, or just finish him off with a rocket after you've dealt that, you know, damage that the pretty consistent damage. So just kind of let him go because you didn't do that consistent damage while he's running away from you, trying to dodge you. So in those kind of situations, hit scan's a bit better. That was just a good, like, kind of mid from you, but you probably should have made sure the mag died there. Probably didn't matter actually, because your team was probably going to pick it up. But yeah, that was really good what you did there after the Uber. And I think that you ended up picking up the med now or just before. So you guys are going to have pretty big advantage pushing into last. So just make sure you get here quick because it's not so big that you want to not show up weak. So just get there really quickly. And as long as the Uber is used onto you, you're going to be pretty good, even though you have low health for this. You need to start going right now because I think you're at around 80%. Yeah, you just need to get in there right now. The only reason for this is if you Uber as soon as you get it, and assuming that you can get everyone pretty healthy, which I think is the case since you're the only one that died there, to my knowledge, you just want to use your Uber as soon as possible because if it happens to fail, acknowledging that you kind of set a precursor for it, everyone's really buffed and it's an ideal Uber. If it does fail, then they're going to have less Uber to kind of push into you, and you can probably delay them long enough to get it to defend too. So yeah, you end up sitting on it for a little bit longer than I had hoped. If your scout kind of leads in, you don't have to be afraid of a sniper. Or if there is a sniper, he can just back up and reset and you guys can push when you actually get it. So that's really the only situation when you're going to get punished very hard for not having Uber, pushing through a door. Because for the most part, you're not going to want to Uber like you did right here through the door immediately if there's not really a threat. So this Uber might go poorly because you guys Ubered a little early and you multied. You don't want to multi through a door this early. It's not really going to work out. So in this situation, I probably would have let the scout lead, and he can call whether or not to Uber, open up the space for you guys. He could have dueled this roamer for a bit with a medigun attached to him, and you guys wouldn't have felt that bad about your situation. You know, the roamer's being dealt with, he can't really get onto your med. The scouts check the sticky trap as he goes through, so you're not really worried about stickies if they're not there. I mean, your scout's gonna call it, so you're gonna know. And you don't have to be so frightened about using this Uber, you know. That's a problem with a lot of medics, I think, is they lack this confidence about knowing what's going on. And the job of all your teammates, the people leading the push, is to let the medic know. Realistically, the only thing the medic should be calling and really managing is people's health and kind of calling off pushes. You know, if your scout or your demo wants to do something based off of positioning they see of the enemy team, your medic can like okay it if your health is good or not, and he just kind of generally manages the Uber. You don't want him like really having that much of a say in a push so much, except if the health is pretty shitty beforehand. So like this is one of the reasons why pockets are kind of really important. You gotta make sure you don't Uber this early. So yeah, and because you didn't scout out what was going on early, you're gonna have to deal with the sentry gun. Granted, what you did with the Uber is pretty good, up until this point where you kind of diverged to the spawn. Probably would have reloaded a lot before you got here. You only had a couple rockets loaded and you actually ended up there, which is a problem. But you did push them back pretty well, so you ended up taking that Uber. But yeah, you can understand, like, yeah, I prefer to go main on this mid as soldiers, just because there's a little bit less garbage time of you walking around not really doing anything, and you can jump a bit earlier. What you have to look out for is, I think most soldiers roll out, when they roll out main, is they do a tiny jump off the wall, especially if you're using gunboats. So I don't really know the case for pockets. I haven't played on this map yet, but you have to watch out for the timing where the second sticky from their demo ends up hitting you and their demo, or your demo, at the same time. So just delay a little bit. You might just want to take it on like you are right now, just walking, but there is room for a little extra 27 hop, just get you there quicker. So if you want to add that in and feel that out, that'd probably be a good idea. So right now that pre-fire was a mistake because I don't really think it was aimed at anyone specifically, and you saw the soldier on the right. With the medic behind him, it's pretty obvious that he's going to jump, and if he's not, then I don't know, he's just trash. And at that point you can kind of pre-fire, but using that rocket and not really directing it at anyone specifically, or like having kind of a plan that, oh, I know my scout's here, and he traditionally on these mids likes to fight scouts, so if I put a rocket on the scouts, it'll help him out a lot. If you don't really have that idea behind a pre-fire, then it's probably not the best idea. And it kind of punishes you here, because by the time you're up here, you only have one rocket, because you fired a pre-fire, rocket jumped, and then shot another rocket at him. And it's kind of problematic for you right now, because you should have 2 rockets instead of 1, and that would make this fight a lot easier on you. You still do a pretty good job. I don't think you knew that you had less ammo than you actually did. And right now you just need to play on the ground, or sorry, further back, what you were doing. And just kind of spam people out. I wouldn't have gone for the health pack there, because I'd rather keep it up for someone more important. Soldiers are pretty shitty at fighting mids towards the end, so just make sure, like, if available, I'd probably give it to a scout. And I don't think you're in that much danger just spamming there and supporting your team from inside that choke point. And yeah, just be really careful here. You should spam this entrance before you take the next. It just kind of makes sense to, you know, pre-fire every door, like the closest possible threat instead of the point first. And right now, I think you guys are even, but you guys may have dropped their med first, so you might be disadvantaged a bit. And you really want to be peeking lobby with this. You never want to be sitting around doing nothing. You know, you get there early enough. You can always know where stickies are after you clear them, because you can hear them being set up. So you clear the stickies, acknowledge their position, and start clearing them right before you have to go after you've cleared them the first time. Or, you know, buff scouts in and they kind of put some pressure on flank, and because their health is so good compared to the flank, maybe they can get a pick there. And even if they die this early in the Uber building process, it's not a problem, because by the time they spawn, you'll have Uber, you've slowed down their team a bit, and you'll be able to defend mid, and at the end of all of that, they'll probably have a pretty shitty Uber pushing into you guys. So you don't want to sit around at low percent, pretty much. It's just not the best idea. And this is another place where I'm not too fond of Ubering, because you always have to Uber through this door. The way this second is really a bitch to push. I think it's probably one of the worst seconds in the game to push. So the way you safely push second is continually pushing flank and resetting at a certain point, like 5 seconds in if you don't get a kill, and waiting to get a kill there and then push in. But if you're just gonna man mode Uber it, which I would probably suggest because it's kind of lame playing the other way, you'd probably want to scout lead through main, have them get in and establish position on the low ground, and then jump up behind. If the soldiers are spamming you, your scouts could do damage to them, and your medic could arrow them if it's allowed in ETF2L. I don't really know. Could arrow them from a distance if they got damaged or chipped away by scouts, and they would just alleviate pressure from you guys and make sure you could get in without taking damage. And then with your big health, you could kind of jump in and deal with their soldiers. Other than that, I would probably push flank. In general, I think the easiest way to push is flank, and just kind of jump your soldiers in. You also have the ability to kind of back off immediately if you push flank. You get in so far that you're comfortable with stacking both soldiers in, and then backing off with your medic. Maybe you can force them there, and then play pretty far back on mid, and since it's a big distance from the like back of their second to back of mid, you're probably not going to have to use and be able to defend mid pretty easily without even using, if you do enough damage at 2. So yeah, they're like kinda already gone. I don't know why their medic didn't back out the right, but you're doing a lot of damage here. Yeah, that was like a good Uber on your part, but in general, like, okay, like, it's a really good Uber because they only Ubered on you, but that kind of leads to other problems. Other people get damaged, and then your medic is overextended because you have to go really far into them. So it doesn't really work out. So even though it looks good from your perspective, which you did do a good job with that, but even though it looks good from your perspective, you want to try to avoid those Ubers where you end up Ubering really early, because it causes problems after the Uber, and that's the most important part about a push. Okay, so again, I kind of noticed that your scouts want to build, and I mentioned this in a lot of other reviews, because I guess a lot of scouts like to build, but you don't really ever want to be scout building unless ammo is a concern, because for a couple reasons, the scout's going to be ticking away. Like, he's got a dot on him if he's building, which reduces the medic's ability to hand out buffs, because if he's handing out buffs and they push in, the scout's HP is going to be 150 and however long the dot has been ticking. So it's going to be around like 120 maybe. And just from an aggregate health standpoint, that's a pretty big mistake. On top of that, he's boss and bashing actively, which means he's a pretty easy target, and he doesn't have his weapon out to protect his medic. It's not very safe for the medic to be around him. And then, I mean, it's not going to happen in like a whole situation like this when you're very far back, but it's just the principle of it. I just would never do it. And then when you're buffing a soldier, you're also getting 70 extra health. He's going to be building around 270, so he has a 70 buff, a 70 health buff, as opposed to a scout who's going to have to build around 150, 160, so he's going to have a 25 or 35 health buff. So just from a buff standpoint, on the person you're building, it makes sense there too. So yeah, like, what I don't like about your team is when your medic's not with you guys, you're all just kind of dicking around and waiting for the medic. You should be, as a team, the people forward need to be looking actively at what's going on to make sure nothing gets in and nothing really can surprise you guys. If you're winning already, like your number advantage, but you don't have a mech and you don't want to push in, they can kind of push the envelope a bit and try to clear traps. But it's just the fact that you guys aren't actively doing something kind of bothers me, and just waiting for the medic. It definitely opens up a lot of opportunities for keen players on the enemy team to sneak in, and you never want to let that happen. Okay, so they definitely know you're coming from either the left or the right, because that guy saw you, so this is pretty advertised. That said, I don't think it was the best idea to Uber through there. I think you guys still have advantage. Okay, they just got it. So I'll just go over that again. Like, you keep Ubering through these doors early, and even though you get a bunch of people that don't really need to die, which is really fortunate for you and your team, they still just kind of, like, in this instance, they have Uber, and if they didn't, they'd probably lose. But you guys should clear the stickies before you push. You know, you had a lot of time in lobby. You pushed there, someone saw you and they left, and you had a lot of time to clear stickies, regardless of which entrance you wanted to push into. I probably would have pushed through the right side just because a soldier saw me there and it looked like you guys were heading left already. So if anything, the demo would be prepared for you left. So if you wanted to clear the stickies on the right, and also because there's that kind of cover there, it's hard for him to sticky that door and watch it. It probably would have been a better idea for a cleaner Uber. But yeah, you guys are definitely Ubering way too early. Shouldn't have eaten those rockets. That one's a bit unfortunate, the air shot. Not much you could have done about that, but yeah. You kind of took a lot of damage there because you were hiding from them. And you just needed to kind of, not sit in the open, but just be on that far right side, but not within splashable walls, basically. And that last would have gone a bit better towards the end. So I think their medic's still up. Which means you guys are kind of in a tough spot right now. But the nice thing about the second, I guess it's nice, but it depends on your perspective. It's really hard to get to mid. So you can comfortably take lobby, spam them out, and as long as you're maxing that choke, that hallway to the right there, he's going to be able to get out through Valley if you force them before drop down, or like just right after drop down. If you can force them there, your med's gonna be fine. Maybe you'll die. You might have to sack into them to guarantee the force. You might just have to spam them if your demo's there and he hits some nice sticks, but giving this up so early I don't really like. And in general, what my team used to do on this map is we played really aggressive in Valley, and we had our demo kind of control lobby, and whenever they pushed in, we would push Valley. That would allow us to kite. If we were close to Uber, we could get it, and we could get a bunch of kills from the people coming flank and underneath. If the situation arose, we went for a back cap as a team, kind of sent someone back to stop them and force their Uber. But for the most part, it was just really hard to hold for them. We just held our medic right in front of that forward spawn. He was able to heal the demo, and then we held a scout soldier in Valley, one soldier on the roof like your roamer is right now, and another scout just chilling with a demo in lobby near that hallway. And that opened up a lot of opportunities for us to get aggressive on them, even though they had advantage. Just speed this up a bit. So they should have it right now. I don't really know. I think you got a pick, so maybe that's why they're not pushing in. But if you did get a pick, you should be pushing up. You guys are always going at 100%, and you're not leaving yourselves enough room to kind of figure out what's going on. And now you're rushing in right now. Even though you're even, there's not really a point in rushing in. Just heal up, make sure you get 300 before you peek this again. Because you don't need to go in, you're not on any timer, they already have Uber. So if, I would approach this from a different door, because this one's pretty brutal. So we'll probably push flank. Maybe push people out of flank and then heal your roamer really hard so he gets a really close 300 HP bomb and you can maybe force the medic from there. But definitely flank in general, just easier and more successful than pushing up here. And you guys decide to do that, I think. I would have jumped that scout. Right now he's pretty vulnerable. If your team can follow up on that, you don't really have to worry about lobby. Because like I was mentioning earlier with that forward hold that I was suggesting, that really aggressive hold, if they come into lobby as you're already on flank, pushing flank, there's not a whole lot they can do about it. And as long as you space players out far enough from your medic so that they can see if the enemy team is pushing behind you or going back to second, you can't really get punished for having poor health there. But yeah, see, this demo man's actively worried about you. you'd be using this distraction to kind of go in on the flank and just kind of try and kill someone there and look for a pick. So now your roamer is going to presumably jump from below, so you should spam him a bit earlier so they're forced to shoot at you. It didn't really matter because he ended up running into a sticky trap. And they use now... This Uber is kind of shitty because you took so much damage. That guy really shouldn't have dropped down and should have jumped away. So I wouldn't expect to have gotten a kill from that. But it ends up working out pretty well. I don't really know where the rest of the team was there. But yeah, see, this kind of happens. You have these really shitty Ubers. That one is a bit better, but like... You still ended up Ubering into 6 people, as opposed to... Well, yeah, 6 people versus your 5. Which is kind of a problem. I probably would have preferred if you just spammed them and tried to jump out, or knew that you couldn't die, or that you couldn't really live without getting Ubered, and appreciate that fact and just kind of go into them a bit earlier without Ubering. But really, that actually would have probably been fine. Sorry, just gonna pause. If you had been Ubered a bit earlier by your medic, so maybe just a miscommunication there. But you really want to maintain health and position so your medic has the opportunity to Uber other people, because he doesn't want to get stuck on you because you have like 70 HP at the beginning of the Uber, and he wants to be able to move around and buff other people during the Uber, in which case you would be jumping around at the end of your flash just so you can maintain your health. And that sort of way you can win an Uber based on health at the end of it by moving your medic around, and that's what you're looking to do in those like Uber v Uber situations where there's 2 flashy people, shiny people looking at each other doing nothing. You're trying to get ahead in kind of a health standpoint. So this is good. I don't know why your roamer isn't doing this. I believe he was still up. That's unfortunate. It doesn't really make a difference who does it, and if you saw an opportunity because you had 300 and he didn't, that's fine. But I think you probably should have, as a team, just gone in there, because you create a lot of distraction, which is totally fine. You probably want to go through, like you yourself want to go through lower, just so you can get out of here and leave the Uber to the rest of your team, because the scout demo composition is pretty good in this Uber. Like right now you don't really need to be here. It's pretty clear, like even from your perspective, that the demo and the scout would have been able to deal with that earlier. So knowing that you guys were going to get Uber, you could have kind of cleared the lower, prevent anything from getting behind you, and put pressure on other sides of the map with your 300 HP. And knowing that you were going to split from him, your medic should have probably just tanked you up there.
The control point is being captured.
So you should probably stay at last. Never mind, you're good. Just gonna speed up a bit. Alright, so this is a good place to come into mid from when you're kind of capping it and you're not looking to get that aggressive. I wasn't going to make a whole lot of comments based on what I was seeing in the kill feed, but to me it looked like your team was losing. So I would have been pretty cautious about going into mid, and I would have probably called my team to back up there. At this point you should be looking to jump into them, and you can't fire that rocket. That pre-fire, if they happened to be there, you wouldn't have been able to kill them because you only had 2 rockets loaded after the jump. So if you're gonna pre-fire that, you might as well reload and just, I don't know, get fucked if someone happens to jump on you at the time. At least you'll have a 3rd rocket to kind of duel them a bit better with.
Control point is being contested. You failed.
Let's see what you do at mid this time. Okay, so if you're going up here, I'd expect you to jump to these horizontal grates on your left pretty much all the time. It's a really good position, it's easy to jump off of, and the counter jump isn't that strong. Because it's pretty easy to shotgun, because the range they have to be at to actually get up there, like the angle they have to take is pretty hard for them. So it's really easy to just take that and kind of sit there the entire mid until you or your team does enough damage, and then you just kind of jump in. But that mid was fine too. I think it was mostly because your team kind of opened it up for you. So I probably would, yeah, I wouldn't say that I would kind of try to do that all the time because it's reliant on what your team does. So if your team doesn't do a whole lot, I probably wouldn't walk around. You don't really have the luxury to do that. You'll take too much damage. And even in that case, it might have been better to jump earlier into them. Okay, so this is another problem that you guys are having, or like it's a reoccurring theme of you don't figure out what's going on before you Uber, which is in part because you guys just get really anxious when you have Uber, and also because you won't push up until you're very, very close to Uber, so you can't really figure out what's going on. So a more observant team, like really following the mantra of kind of scouting things out, probably would have gone here a bit earlier, healed up their scouts so they could figure out what was going on, and kind of decided which the best door would be to push from there based on where their defensive positioning is. Obviously running into this pyro is pretty much game, like your Uber is shit. Fortunately they don't have it, I'm pretty sure. Yeah. Okay, you don't want to be pushing into them right now. You want 300 before you go in. In the case where someone falls back to your mech to get healed, at that point you can go in and get aggressive, but you never want your mech doing nothing, and if no one else needs heals, you can afford to wait all that time to get 300 and kind of bomb in, because I expect you guys to lose this last pretty soon. I don't think your mech's going to get out at this point, and you're just kind of concerned with kind of taking out their medic. So yeah, see, he's dead from this position. There's no way he lives, and you didn't really get that much effectiveness out of anything because you kind of pushed in at 200 health as opposed to 300, where you can feel really comfortable jumping into them. And the people that you were kind of shooting at, they hadn't been taking damage previously in that last, so you spamming them, chipping at them bit by bit isn't really conducive with the fact that you're losing. Like, you really want to get into them and have a very strong kind of spike of damage, because previously they weren't damaged, they were kind of unharmed because most of the Uber was deflected by that pyro. So spamming them for like 30s doesn't do a whole lot to them because they're already full health, so their mech just needs to manage health properly and rebuff from pretty much half buff to full buff, which isn't a whole lot to really ask of him. So in that situation, like I said, just work on a spike of damage when you're trying to fight people that aren't really hurt that much. And peeking it when you're low health is much more favorable for them, because they're kind of reasserting their position by doing that. If they're already winning the fight, they can take a defensive stance, and if you're pushing into them and they're always hitting you, even if you trade damage, they're still going to be winning over and over again. Eventually they'll kill someone else that's not getting healed, and then they'll start kind of just concaving on you, and that's a problem. So should have waited for 300 there, basically. And here, like I said, I think this is way too passive given like the flaws with this map's lobby. After taking the scout here, I probably would have jumped towards them and tried to force them or do a lot of damage, and had my roamer just kind of get behind them and take a pack. Just because in that situation, it's a lot more preferable to have a roamer alive in a scrappy fight than it is to have a pocket, because healing up a pocket and making him efficient is really difficult. I would expect you to take a little bit more damage there from the demo, because usually they'll try to get, you know, easy hits on people, and up there you're kind of an easy hit. So if you drop to like 100, 150 or something, you're pretty garbage for a long time. Like, pockets below 260 aren't the best, you know, like you kind of need that to bully people around. And pockets below like 150 are actually pretty useless. By the time you jump in the air, you're just gonna get scattered down if their scouts are any good at all. So for that reason, I probably would have jumped in instead of playing a bit further back, even though you got that pick and the push was looking good for you guys. It just makes more sense to try and keep your roamer alive, because he's more flexible at low HP. So in a fight that I wasn't certain you were going to win because they had a bit of Uber advantage, you probably should have kind of sacked into them and forced them. That's what I think. So again, you're pushing through this. Like, you could have definitely came through drop down and it's pretty much as good as this, but because they kind of got destroyed and then got forced, you guys get this for free, which is good. Take this. They're giving you last right now. Just leave him. Your medic can stay with your team and they can handle... Okay, so a couple problems happened here. So you're kind of committing the fallacy that, like, you know, you really need to be with the medic at all times, and that's not the case. Because of you being there, he's kind of encouraged to heal you just because a lot of inexperienced medics kind of put a lot of importance on their pocket. So he's encouraged to heal you. Other people aren't getting buffs, and you're already full health, so you can just keep pushing forward. What I would have done there, kind of looked back, thrown damage at the soldier, and keep pushing forward. Picked up a health pack if you actually took some damage from him, the little bottle in the right lobby. And your team could have capped, Scout could have dealt with the ship behind while being Ubered, and then your medic had would have the luxury of buffing everyone without you kind of eating damage. Like, that's all really a pocket's good for in a lot of situations, is eating a lot of damage and wasting health. So you should have looked to avoid that. And now in this situation, since your team's moving on, this is more of an error on their part. They can feel very comfortable leaving you here to cap against a scout, and since you're really slow anyway, and you're already on the cap, it's more favorable for them to leave you and kind of pick up a scout and head towards last. So.
Time has been added. Alert. The control point is being captured.
So you have to end this round quick because of that back cap. And it's not gonna happen. So... Oh! Okay, yeah. Your team defended. That was fortunate. So yeah, again, you're sitting at 300 for a while here. And really, when you go out main, you should be a second ahead of their pocket, and you guys kind of met at the same time. So that's just kind of showing how slow you are. Like, you're unequalizing a bit early. And see how up here, I think you pre-fired a rocket again because you only had 2 rockets by the time you got up there. And then you fired one that missed, and then fired one again. See, that position is really good because you can deal with that guy pretty easily, and at the same time you can deal with other people. I probably wouldn't have chased him knowing that he would have jumped around, because this valley area is very comfortable for roamers to just jump around and collect health packs. So just turning around to hit him with your 3rd rocket because you didn't pre-fire would have been a good idea, and then looking to spread damage and pressure. So yeah, he just kind of came back for you. Maybe that was a different soldier actually. But yeah, that mid was a bit unfortunate, and you keep targeting things that aren't really your job, I would say. You know, it's really great if you kill that soldier there, but you're not really... You're wasting rockets on him when he can just jump away, and it's not really an efficient damage. It's kind of... If you want to rocket shotgun him a couple times and move around so you can't really get punished by the rest of their team, and then kind of fight them with the rest of your rockets that you still have loaded, that would probably be more preferable if you were really worried about him. And in general, you guys I was actually going to mention this before, but since your mag lived, and he was trying to 1v1 that scout for a long time, he probably should have kill binded there, because he actually got the next spawn wave. And if they were a little more keen, they would have been in last probably before you got all your buffs out, and it would have already been over. So I was going to suggest not running off classes here, because if you don't have a luxury of buffing the heavy, you know, you're kind of fucked, and you don't have time to build the sentry. So anyway, it didn't really matter, because their mag kind of died late, and you didn't have time to slow them down or really set up a really good position on last, so... Yeah, that's unfortunate. Just make sure you mention that to him a little bit, like kill bind in shitty situations. So yeah, again, you're a little bit slow, and you can't make up your mind there for a second. So this guy gets out really early, and it works out pretty well there. And this is one of the mids that you like. Like, Pocket's really good for spreading damage and being efficient in damage trades, because you have the two best, like, pretty much the most versatile weapons in the game. Rockets are instant, they don't have the prime time that stickies have, and obviously the shotgun's just as good as a scattergun. So you can be really confident in jumping into a bunch of people that you can expend all of your ammo as quickly as possible and do a shit ton of damage. And that's really good for your team at mid. Yeah, see, there's one of those situations where you're going for these kind of miracle rockets, where you could just splash the wall there to guarantee damage, and shotgun when he's in the air or right before he's about to jump, just to kind of control him a bit. I understand that, you know, Soldier's like the rocket class, but you really have to take advantage of that shotgun, because it's... If you're not playing Pocket for the weapon switching and controlling the situation with your weapons, then you're basically, like, you're losing out, because Roamer's just better at that point, let's be honest. So right now, since both of you maintained Uber, I think, because their mech ended up in lobby after you jumped him, you probably want to take the kind of risk of pushing them in lobby, making sure that if they are to progress in lobby, that they have to earn it, they push you out, or they have to use. So you know their demo's cut off right now, he's on the right side and no one is with him. Or he actually crossed over, so... You guys can look to pick that guy. Okay, so if you get a pick in last, you either push out or you have someone suicide into him. If you're gonna suicide, a lot of the times it's a Pocket or a scout. If it's a situation where you're likely to get a kill, you probably want to send a Pocket, just because he's going to be a bit better at it. And the only reason you send the Pocket over the Roamer is because he's probably 300 and the Roamer's not. So if your Roamer is healthy, you could obviously send him. And the goal of the suicide is just to die as quickly as possible, to sync your spawns up with the person that died on their team. That's really why the only reason you use a scout is if you don't think it's very likely that anything's going to happen, you'll send a scout just for good practice, and to make sure they can't really get away with, you know, suiciding onto you guys over and over again. And then, I don't know, other thing you can do is kind of work with your team, move as a unit, and try to pick someone off that's overextending, like I probably would have done against that soldier. As soon as you got hit by that first rocket, and then you did the double take looking at the demo, and then the second rocket, instead of taking that double take, I would have moved my entire team over there, and you can lead a scout in. And as long as everyone takes the corner at around the same time, the damage is going to be really quick, and he's not going to have enough time to react, and the scout can chase him out. So, the biggest problem here is that you didn't, as a team, attempt to do anything with the pick you just got. And now you guys are going in and you're looking to kind of get at this soldier, but obviously the scout's already up. So yeah, might want to be peeking a little bit more and kind of aggressively spamming them, because if there's a situation where you can catch 2 or 3 people as you peek a door, and your mech's around you, you can Uber into them and kill them, and if the mech's there, you know, make them multi. So after these 2 headshots, you want to be going. I might even suicide in. I don't know really what he headshot, but 2 is good enough for me. So yeah, you should be kind of actively looking to find this sniper. Like the time when he peeked the shower door, I probably would have sent someone left or gone left myself to just kill him. And it's okay to kind of be the aggressor in situations like this, because you leaving the medic leaves him available for other people to get healed. So in the situation where you have to back up and you don't get a lot done, you might come back at 200 health, but everyone else has the luxury of getting healed, and that's really good for pushing into last. If you're going to get Ubered anyway, you don't want to be full health to begin with, if other people can be healed. So you guys could actually afford just Ubering into them if you know their medic is close to their sniper. So right now, you want to take some of this Uber and jump towards the right side, because I imagine the sniper is still there. And if you can kill him for free, you're looking pretty good. Because you didn't do that early enough, he's still sitting there like an idiot, and you kind of have that problem to deal with. Yeah, like the problem, that Uber you didn't even need to really be there. Like you're kind of taking on the role of, you know, being in every Uber, but that's not really important for Pocket. If you can find like an Uber v Uber battle on your own terms, of course you want to be in that. But if they kind of push into you, whoever's getting pushed into is the people that need to be Ubered, and you being there and not doing anything with the flash, like not finding that sniper immediately, is just a waste of Uber, basically. This is a good mid for you. And like, you keep wasting rockets though, like that wasn't necessary. He wasn't really in a position to hurt your team, and since you're basically 200 and have height advantage, I wouldn't expect that guy to hit me very much. Just make sure you have good movement and dodging his directs. So loading a bit to make sure that if you do shoot him, he's not jumping away, and if he stays, then obviously it doesn't hurt you that much because you're a bit loaded and you can kind of pop him up and then rocket him. Just like a minor thing, that if someone else were to push you at that point, you wouldn't have 2 rockets loaded to really deal with both of them. But yeah, now that you're getting more aggressive on these mids, it's working out a lot better for your team. And that's really kind of what you have to do as Pocket, because a lot of the times you don't have the luxury of kind of like playing MG and like sitting on the ground and shooting everyone. I guess it's more like ammo mod, sitting on the ground and shooting everyone. Because you're going to be taking a lot of damage and like hemorrhaging a lot of heals away from the rest of your team. So just for your own sake of not taking damage and like leaving your mech around just so other people can heal him, you probably want to jump away for the most of the time, freeing your medic up, that is. Okay, it's not quite there, but you're almost getting to the time where you have to push. Just like to the end. So if this push fails, you're gonna have to kind of go all out on the next one. So again, you're pushing through this top area. The demo man already knows you're here. You can hear him actively sticking you guys out, either at this door or below this door. So I probably would have pushed flank with this. And this Uber is really slow. They Uber when they don't need to. You're traveling along with this, and that's good, but you should have kind of curved into that left area last. I guess it's right from your perspective, the right area. And that way the scouts can't push into you. I didn't think there was 2 there, but I knew there was 1, and just trading you for a roamer isn't that good. So just holding up there, or holding up there, and just kind of killing anyone that comes in is probably your best bet. At the very least, if both of them come at you together, you kind of bring both of them back, and your damage is really efficient because you're splashing both of them at the same time. So you may even get both kills. So I think you have 2 picks on them, so you might want to push right now. You definitely don't need to wait any longer because you're about to get Uber. I'm not really sure how that turned out successful, but I guess you distracting him at the back was pretty nice. So, okay, so you knew their medic hadn't gone down and that their Uber was a bit later than yours. So you expect them to have Uber just as you're getting in, so there's not really a point in wasting that much ammo on the pocket because they're going to have to Uber anyway. So you should have looked to kind of jump that roamer as a follow-up to killing the demo. Fuck this guy, he's not doing anything. Just ignore the pyro, just get back in the last, he's not going to fuck with anyone. See, again, you're kind of shooting at people that are really full health and wasting all your ammo, not really doing a whole lot. Whereas you've fired like a kind of spam rocket to maybe pop them up, and then pushed in, had time to reload a rocket because you were walking anyway, you would be able to do a lot more damage because obviously no fall off, and they're really easy rockets to hit at medium to close range. Not that it mattered because you guys kind of finished it up anyway. Does it go to golden cap, or do you just tie? I don't really know ETF2 well really. I think you just tie. Maybe you or they get a really quick round. So yeah, maybe just do like a 27 off the wall, or just a little tiny jump off the wall and get there quicker. And this is good. You need to worry about the pocket to your right. I think he's hanging out on the crates or behind your team. Because after you push everyone that like back that far, you can kind of start worrying about taking 1v1s that are going to start hurting your medic. Like as soon as you hit that much damage and kind of push them back, I would be worried about not winning the mid, because from that point on I would consider the mid already won, but minimizing any losses you take in winning the mid. So I would be pretty concerned about my medic there. You should shotgun this. Just start shotgunning. That's the best way you can help him out. I would expect that guy to be weak, and being able to shotgun him for like 50 health in 3 shots is pretty valuable in just assisting him there. So you guys have full Uber advantage. Oh no, you don't. I guess you guys used. I don't know if their med stayed up in mid, so this might be a unfortunate push. At any rate, it looks like you guys are dying regardless of whether or not they Uber. I think this is one of those things where you guys are pushing against the time. Yeah, it does just tie. That's cool. But yeah, that was a good game. You started picking up the mids towards the end. I still kind of recommend pushing up or jumping up to those crates, and because of the angle people have to jump into them, they're pretty easy to defend. And also you have a lot of options of health packs to jump to and people to jump onto. As far as Ubering into places go, you guys need to get there earlier before you have Uber and clear things out if you really want to push at 100%. And you guys have to Uber in like kind of favorable doors for you. Like into 2 you are always Ubering through the bridge door. When flank is definitely easier and more effective, and I would argue that the most optimal is underneath, but it's a little more difficult and requires a little bit more finesse. So work on flank for now because it's easy and it's kind of easy to improve on too. You can kind of see your mistakes pretty easily, and it's not really a problem if they get behind you in lobby. They could kite there, but you can just pick people off without Ubering. And then kind of fight the Uber with them there. Another problem you guys seem to have is you're Ubering really early all the time, regardless if there's a threat present or not. Just make sure you communicate to your medic what's going on when you enter an area. Other than that, a couple like minor weapon selection things that I mentioned, but for the most part it was pretty good. I don't know. I could comment a bit more if I knew the map better, but I'm not too keen on Metalworks. I don't really understand it that well. So, good games and good luck with the rest of the season.